Hey everyone, Sarah here, and welcome back to another week of Light Season offense matches. This year's Fallen Banner opens up a lot of possibilities for offense teams, and I decided to get things started this week by pairing Dimitri up with Fallen Lilith. One of Dimitri's biggest drawbacks is being forced to choose between Atrocity and Null Follow-Up, but with Lilith on the team, he can use them both at the same time. Dimitri himself is still an exceptionally strong unit. Getting dodge from his weapon makes him really durable, and the slaying effect lets him use a breath seal for an instant soul on his counterattacks. Atrocity's true damage boosts that healing too, on top of turning him into an excellent wall breaker, and the spectrum of smoke skills it provides gives him a significant edge in consecutive combats. The joint drive is mostly a convenience for him here, since he did have panic support for the weak. Lilith, meanwhile, is built purely to support him. The two life and death skills are almost enough to let her soak bright shrines from him consistently. She'd be able to do it with life and death 4, which is a really useful benefit. Her warping effect is also really helpful for navigating the map, whether for testing traps, repositioning allies, or boxing in a ranged unit while pot hunting. The link and opening skills are a good way to give Dimitri access to visible buffs, too. Kano was my bonus unit for the week, and ended up being an invaluable support thanks to Sudden Panic. Panic has been steadily recovering its value lately, and the introduction of Medius makes it an extremely powerful effect. The two openings also let him offer Dimitri and Lilith access to attack and speed bonuses, though they can be a bit unreliable against bright shrines or chills. Ashe and Milla are an excellent pair of sabotage supports, giving Dimitri an edge even before Atrocity starts to kick in. And Ashe also gives the team a lot of flexibility with navigating the map, while Milla's isolation and Peony's dance never stop being useful. Now that we've gone over the team, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a bit of a quiet start to the week. It's very much a freebie sort of giveaway match. They do have their weapons equipped and base kits intact, and they also have this pretty impressive, nearly maxed out Sothis over in one corner, and a +4 Medius over in the other. These two make me think this is more of a fishing map than anything else, so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to pay me a visit later this week. I'm really not expecting to have any issues with this, especially not with Dimitri's new support partner helping him out. We should be able to just close things out pretty quickly here.
I do not object.
Your orders.
And we'll just dance Lilith and make sure that she gets in range to buff him again next turn. And we should be able to knock out the rest of their armors in one round. Lynn does get to stop the soul, but it's not really going to put Dimitri in any real danger. Since, well, once we get to Liana, he just gets to heal back to full health. Or close enough.
We will not lose.
We should be able to close things out this turn. Let Dimitri knock out Sothis. And have Ashe move forward and let Peony dance him. And then Lilith can warp up here too and reposition him, finish off his buffs, and let him work on Medius.
Do my best.
Null Follow-Up makes Medius a much easier thing to handle for Dimitri. That and, well,
On my honor.
his reliable dodge. Although Medius does get to survive that first hit. It's fun to see. This match is actually going to be a really interesting one. they only have 6 units on their team, and this empty spot is really odd. I feel like there might be a unit who's supposed to be in there, but I'm not sure who it would be, since they do already have 2 mythics on their team. And they have a lot of investment on this team. Even if it is only 6 units, if you don't take this team seriously, it can do a lot of damage. Especially thanks to the combination of a melee sweep effect and a ranged one, since it's pretty uncommon for a save ball to have Null Disrupt in both the ranged and melee slots, so one of these two will typically get to attack for free. And navigating around all of the debuffs that this setup can throw around, especially from these maxed out shrines, along with this maxed out Iago, who's honestly really impressive, it can be difficult to engage on this team properly without fighting your way through some pretty crippling debuffs. The sudden panic is a little bit odd for him, since he does actually have a sudden panic effect, but it does make it a lot more consistent, since this way he applies it every turn, instead of only on even turns. And of course having 2 dancers in the back helps a lot for letting the team catch up to anyone who tries to hit and run. Or just tank from a distance, since this Wings of Mercy Sothis, without a weapon, can just warp to anyone who survives the combat while getting below 50% health and then dance them. It's honestly a really neat setup, and I spent longer than I would like to admit trying to figure out a way to let Dimitri handle this. We're going to need to take a few turns just to get everything set up and in position here. I want to make sure that we test this bolt trap and also break this bright shrine to make sure that Dimitri gets to keep his buffs, since unfortunately Lilith can't quite soak a bright shrine for him without access to at least 1+6 buff, and I don't have a way to give that to her without openings, which can get misdirected thanks to debuffs. So we'll start by moving Ashe forwards, and that is a real bolt trap. And I already goofed up. I meant to move Kana down here first so he wouldn't get hit if this was real, but, well, we should still be able to make this work even without panics. From here we'll have Peony break this, and open our way towards this bright shrine, while Nilla breaks this, and we have Lilith warp over here, while Dimitri breaks this. I'm quite annoyed that I forgot to move Kana first. From here, we're going to start taking advantage of a lot of warp shenanigans and let Peony jump past Ashe to reach this bright shrine. Then we'll have Lilith reposition her over to the left, while Nilla breaks this cake. And then we have Dimitri reposition Peony and Ashe reposition Lilith. And we'll just have Kana move over here. In this turn, we'll get to see Lilith's warp shenanigans in action. She's actually going to test this heavy trap for us, after we dance her, and then have Ashe pull Peony out of the way. We'll smite her onto this trap, which is fake. I guess all of this wasn't necessary. And then Dimitri is going to pull Nilla to safety. Even though this isn't going to be a threatened tile this turn, it will be once Dimitri activates his Tempest. And we'll have Kana reposition Peony down, and then Lilith warp all the way across the map to flip her over to the right. And from here we're just going to take one more turn to make sure we don't engage on this when we're panicked at the start of things. And now that we've dodged that, we should be able to get things going. We'll start by smiting Ashe over to the right, which gives Dimitri access to his edgy alter ego, and lets him just one-shot that. Then we'll dance him with Peony. Then we'll move Ashe down here and have Lilith warp over here to pull Peony to a safe spot. And then Dimitri is going to move up here and knock out Iago, and stop him from chasing down Lilith. I shouldn't have to worry about Nana getting danced, and thanks to the tactic room, she can only attack Dimitri from here. So things should be pretty safe for us this turn. Nana should attack first, since she should be the only one who survives this combat. And while she can do some damage to him, especially with the post-combat damage from Pain, it's not quite enough to let Triandra or Dimitri, or Hell, knock him out. And thanks to damage reduction, he can survive this, and have enough health to handle Hell on the following combat.
Don't let them retreat.
And since she doesn't get guard bearing on the enemy phase, or when she's initiating, rather, we can knock her out. From here, we'll just let Lilith warp up this way to pick up an Aether pot for us,
I'll comply.
and have Dimitri go after Nana first.
On my honor.
I do
Then
not
we'll
object.
have one more round of convoluted nonsense where we reposition Peony forwards and then reposition Ash, since the tactic room means Peony can't quite reach Dimitri until after we dance him, or
Maybe this
smite
way.
Peony to dance him,
Your orders.
and let him close out the match. That was a fun one. Definitely took a lot of planning. This match will be a fun one. They've got a 7-unit team for once this week, and they've got a very impressively invested Hector on their front line. Together with Edelgard, they make a very effective save pair to help protect the team from Gale Force attempts and hit-and-run approaches, especially with a Kanto control from Miss Medius, who's also on the front line. Catria really enables this team's threat and gives triangle attacks to her entire team, which makes even Hector and Edelgard, who are using pretty defensive builds, something you have to take seriously, not to mention the Bremen in the backline and the Brave Alm lurking in the corner. This does seem like a really effective layout, and can be very difficult to crack if you can't actually knock this Hector out, or the Edelgard, and surviving the 1-2-3 punch of Medius, Bremen, and Alm is a bit of a tall order. I do think this might be a baitable map, though, since if you break these three structures, you can actually end up baiting Alm out from this tile with a heavy trap, and then potentially just get Catria to warp here in front of Hector, get danced by Eldgan, and then attack as well. I don't think the rest of the team would be able to catch up from there, so it should probably be easy enough to clean things up if you take that approach. We're going to do something a little bit sillier. And we're, assuming I've done my math correctly for this, going to end up having Dimitri tank all of these triangle attacks by himself. We're going to take this first turn to set up, taking advantage of some warp shenanigans to open these structures in the backup and make it easier to reach these pots for later.
Good
And
morning.
we'll also get Ash to test this heavy trap for us and try to open this up. Alright, that's fake. Or the real one, I mean.
Do my best.
And then Kana can just move over here, and we'll say go. Even if we are getting a little close, this wall of structures actually makes this corner pretty safe for us. From here, we should be able to get things going. I'll just move Ash over here and reposition Peony.
I'll comply.
Then have Dimitri jump all the way forward and break this tactic room for us. Have Peony dance Ash. Then we have Noah just move forward and pick up our first Aether pot. And then we'll say go. See if I've done my math right. First thing that should happen is Bremen moves in to attack. And while he does get a chunk of damage done thanks to the triangle attack, it's not enough to be lethal damage for Dimitri.
Don't let them retreat.
And we heal for a solid chunk after that. Which also applies Atrocity to Edelgard and Medius. Catria moves in here, can get a Moonbow. It's still not enough to really crack him,
Chance to prevail.
especially when he heals for 25 again. Edelgard moves in next. Can also do some damage, thanks to the triangles.
Don't let them retreat.
But from here, they can't actually triangle attack anymore, since they're out of people to enable it. which makes Medius a lot less threatening. And thanks to Null Follow-Up, Dimitri doesn't have any problems punching through him.
We will not lose.
And then Hector should just conveniently heal Dimitri all the way back to full health.
On my honor.
Just in time for Alm to move in and not actually get any damage to stick.
We will not lose.
And well, with only Eldigan left on the field, this isn't going to be too much of a problem for Dimitri. We should just be able to smite him over
Your orders.
and have him move in and close out the match.
We will not lose.
That was a very funny situation. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be an interesting one. They've got a pretty neat team here with this out-of-season legendary Sigurd. He's using a bit of a different kit than normal with a lull and a heavy blade instead of Time's Pulse. While it doesn't have the upside of being able to launch an immediate Holy Knight aura at whatever he attacks, it does let him hit quite a lot harder than you might expect thanks to this lull, and the Joint Drive helps both himself and his nearby allies, including this Ruse Trap Bramond, and the Note, both with impacts, and the Brave Erica. They're rounding that out with a Farsave Deflect Hector and a nearly maxed out Eldigan over here. And I do think this front line can be pretty tricky to crack open thanks to the trap placement and just the amount of range that this Sigurd threatens. The Dogger in the corner doesn't really do much to contribute to that threat area, but can be a very solid backup threat if somebody tries to snipe Sigurd and plonk on this defense tile, since the combination of menaces from Note and Dogger would debuff them for attack, defense, and speed all at once. And this menace also combos really nicely with her weapon to double down on the penalties she gets to apply in combat. They've also got a fun set of tactics here with the attack, res, and speed, and since they set up their team with only 2 at max of each movement type, it's a good way to help boost the stats across the board, at least as long as they're not running into any panic effects, which, well, we are running, mostly from Medius, but it does help a lot against teams like this as well. We're actually going to get this started right away, mostly since I don't want to have to deal with the Sprite Shrine and navigating in and out to snipe it. So we'll just have Dimitri move up here and open up this wall for us. And then have Milla smite him all the way forward onto a defense tile. Then we'll have Lilith reposition Ash over,
Good morning.
and dance Milla, which will let her get out of range of Sigurd for this following turn. And since our tactic room does actually get to limit their Bramman's movement range, we're actually going to
Lord Asker, guide us.
pull some shenanigans with warps to have Ash move over here and let Kana start sneaking in towards these ether pots. And then Milla just backs up, and we'll say go. Dimitri really shouldn't have any problems carving his way through this. Bramman's the biggest threat on the team, and thanks to Lilith's Null Follow-Up, it doesn't really
Don't let them retreat.
slow Dimitri down. Sigurd moves in next, but even that damage reduction on the first hit isn't going to be enough to save him. And he doesn't get that second swing, thanks to Null Follow-Up. Note moves in here, but we didn't even need to break the impact to one-shot her. I think Erica will move in next, yeah. And she can do some damage, but isn't fast enough
Will not lose.
to double Dimitri. And then I think Eldigan, yeah, since he has less health than Hector.
It's our chance to prevail.
But without his native courtly candle, he's not actually surviving that, even with his very impressive defense stat. And then Hector just closes out the turn.
We will not lose.
Nice and clean.
I'll
And from
comply.
here, it's pretty straightforward. We can actually just play this safe thanks to Lilith's teleport range, and box this dogger in, and then we'll just start moving Ashe out this way,
Truly?
and off towards the front line. Oh, that's a real trap. I'm not actually sure which of these is real, which is why I didn't just reposition Dimitri over to try and finish things off right away. This dogger is actually surprisingly bulky, thanks to these combat debuffs, and I'd just like to play it safe. Then from here, we're just going to let Lilith reposition Dimitri over, just to make sure that nothing silly is going on. Kana will pick up our second Aether pot, and we'll let Dimitri close out the match.
It's our chance to prevail.
This match is going to be another kind of wild one. I wasn't really expecting to see a maxed out Sothis that's quite this heavily invested, which is honestly really impressive. It's great to see someone invest this much into a favorite. And she's being backed up by some pretty heavy hitting threats, including this Catria, and the duo Crom of course, and a bonus weak Lilith. This duo dogger is also really spooky, as long as she ends up getting danced, and serves as a really strong backup threat in case the team doesn't find a knockout in the first round of combat. They also do a really good job of threatening the map here thanks to the two Pathfinders and Lilith, which lets Lilith cover most of the map with a threat range all by herself. And even if you bait her from a maximum distance, the map is set up so that Note would end up moving next onto this defense tile, which lets Crom jump past Sothis, change fate her, and then attack you with a Deadeye. And at the same time, they're doing a pretty good job of threatening these defense tiles and making it less than appealing to sit and plonk on them, thanks to this panic manner, which is really annoying to snipe thanks to Lilith's threat range, along with the menace from Note, and the potential for rallies, dances, and rain stacking from the rest of the team, on top of the threat of just having to take multiple triangle attacks in a row. With that said, that's pretty much exactly what we're going to end up doing here for another match this week. I wasn't expecting to put Dimitri through this kind of stuff, but it's fun to see that he can handle it, at least assuming I've done my math correctly. We're just going to take this first turn and the second to make sure we reach this panic manner and take it off the table. Since Dimitri is going to want these defense tiles to survive the barrage he's going to end up facing on the enemy phase. From here, we're going to need to do a bit of reposition shuffling to snipe this panic manner and then get back out of Lilith's threat range. Thankfully,
I'll comply.
reposition is a very good skill, and we can manage that just by using it extensively. And then from here, we'll get things going. We're going to reposition Dimitri forward and complete his buff set, and then just move him straight forward onto this defense tile. He's actually in range of Lilith from here, so Lilith's just going to stay put here, and we'll dance Lilith, who's also going to end up staying put. This is mostly just to let Kana and Ashe jump forward a little bit, and get ready to work their way towards these Aether pots for the next turn. And we'll say go. I think Catria is the first one who should move into attack here. Yep. She does get to do a chunk of damage with this Moonbow.
By your side.
But unfortunately for her, she gets one-shotted by the soul, and attacking first means that Sothis no longer has a triangle attack available. Which actually ends up meaning that Note moves in to attack next. Lilith probably... oh no, Triandra has her attack here, yeah. And again, triangle attack means she can do a chunk. But at this point, they actually don't have any triangle attack options left. So Sothis moves in and takes her shot. But at this point, Dimitri is just going to start healing all the way back to full health again.
On my honor.
And impressive as the Sothis is, she's not built to be an aggressive unit. Oh.
Let's talk about
Right, Crom does have a triangle attack thanks to the Duo Dagger, but the Deadeye doesn't really do much when he doesn't do damage to start with. And, well, Lena just doesn't have anything much she can do without that special.
On my honor.
That really went as well as I could have hoped, and it's kind of hilarious to see Dimitri doing that well into triangle attacks.
Lord,
From
ask
here
for
we're just going to need to take a couple of turns to
Fine.
break our way towards these ether pots. The Tactic Room's actually doing a lot of work for us by limiting Dogger's threat range. And
I'll
from here
comply.
we are going to see if we can actually pick up the second ether pot and close out the match. Oh, and this was the real trap.
I
Perfect.
bestow my blessing.
It just means we can move Mill over here and have Peony jump over here. Dance Dimitri,
Yes.
move him forward to pick up the second ether pot, and enemy phase this Dogger. Null Follow-Up means the impact doesn't really do anything, and, well, she doesn't get any damage to stick either. This match is an interesting one. They've got a very wide variety of blue threats on their team. They had a match kind of like this a couple of weeks ago with Ike, so it's funny to run into another one like this. They do have a pretty solid Reinhardt over here, and well, the sheer amount of blue on this team can overwhelm you if you're not using a green tank as your primary carry. Not like last time, this is really tempting me to pull Brave Ike back off the bench, just because he would do really well at dismantling something like this. On the other hand, I don't think Dimitri is going to have any problems with this either, and we should actually be able to start this off and clean things out in one turn. Or on the first turn at least. We'll need another turn at least to pick up the ether pots afterwards, but
I bestow my blessing.
that's not such a big deal.
Ready.
Yes.
We'll just start by having Dimitri move in and knock out Ingrid. We don't have to worry about this panic manner since it only hits up to 65 hit points,
I'll
and
comply.
Dimitri isn't going to take damage from this combat. And from here, he should be able to tank his way through, ideally, everything except Dorothea. So we'll just have Kana move over here,
Good morning.
Peony get in here too,
Lord, ask your
move
guidance.
Ash over this way, and say go. Sudden Panic does a lot of work here since it turns off the menaces and actively makes them a drawback,
Don't let them retreat.
which really helps double down on Dimitri's Atrocity smokes. Reinhardt can get some damage done, but he and Brandmond, I think, are the only ones who
We
can.
will not lose.
And, well, the other units on their team are just going to be health packs for Dimitri.
On my honor.
Bram should move first, since he doesn't have an assist
On
after
my
this,
honor.
and then hopefully get danced. So we don't have to worry about them. Ah. Not quite. Sadly, Bram went 2 spaces down instead of going towards Dimitri, so we're going to have to be a little careful navigating this while we
Good
aim
morning.
for the ether pots. As long as we stay out of Dorothea's range, we should just be able to bait Bramman without any
Yes.
problems, so we'll just move Dimitri back into this previously
Fine.
occupied tile, and have everybody else start
I do
moving
not object.
forwards.
Like this.
Do my best.
Bram moves in, but no follow-up means Dimitri's not going to have any issues handling him, even if we didn't just one-shot him outright.
Don't let them retreat.
And we're out of range of Dorothea, so the match isn't over yet. And
If
from
I
here, we're just
must.
going to need to tank Dorothea with
Your
someone who
orders.
isn't Dimitri for a turn,
I
which
cannot object.
really shouldn't be too hard.
It will be done.
Mila can handle it, and well, so can basically everybody else here. So we'll just
Maybe.
dance Ash and
Lord, ask your
reposition
guidance.
Kana up as well, and say go. Let her take her pick of any of these three to attack without knocking herself out. Well, that is. And then from there we can just pick up the Aether pot
Do my best.
and close out the match.
I'll comply.
Nice and clean. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be yet another Medius and Catria ball near the end of the week. This one without defense tiles that we can exploit for hilarious hijinks. They've done a pretty good job of setting this up so that it's a corridor of death in here, thanks to the double Pathfinders and the Crom and Lysithea and Azura in the back. If you don't isolate Azura, the first thing that happens is a dance on Dagger, which really extends the threat range of this and can definitely find a knockout or two, as if you're not respecting the debuffs that she'll get from a full set of bonuses thanks to Azura. And Medius is a good way to help shut down any hit and run approaches just by having Canto control. It's a neat team, and while I think I should have an easy enough time starting this match, the following turn might get a little tricky. We'll have to see where people end up moving, since that's going to be most of what affects how hard this will get. We'll go ahead and get things started on this first turn by having Lilith check out these bolt traps for us and find the real one.
Where?
Okay, good. And with that out of the way, we'll have Dimitri open up this flag and dance him. And then have him reposition Lilith to a safer spot thanks to Ash's mobility, and we'll let her open up this throne and Kana open up this flag and say go. From here we should just get to bait Azura and Lysithea out immediately. Not quite able to get Crom in the same round, thanks to our tactics rune backfiring a little. But I think there's a good chance we end up getting him anyway this turn, after the rest of the team starts moving. And well, Lysithea and Azura aren't really having a good time without their triangle attacks.
Don't let them retreat.
And it cuts down on the map's threat quite a lot. Okay. And nobody else gets to us. Well, that turn didn't go quite as well as I was hoping. I was hoping we'd at least be able to get Crom out of the picture too. It's still not so bad, even though this tactic room is actually backfiring quite a bit here, just by making it harder to actually bait these ranged units out easily. That said, it should be pretty easy for Dimitri to just stay put this turn, while staying out of range of these two,
I'll comply.
and out of range of triangle attacks, since the only ones with it enabled are the three in the back. I'll also move Kana up here and get him ready to hopefully snag this Aether pot in another turn or two. And just move Lilith over one space to keep her safe from the incoming units. And we'll say go again. We should just be able to tank Medius and Crom right away here. Medius, while spooky, is nowhere near as hard to handle if you have Null Follow-Up, and enough raw damage to punch through his reductions.
Don't let them retreat.
And Crom, well, without triangle attack or any sort of way to punch through it, isn't going to get much done either.
On my honor.
And thankfully Dagger actually went first. So we get to get her and Crom and turn off triangle attack for the rest of the match.
We will not lose.
Good stuff. And then Catria, helpfully, makes it easy for us to go after these pots. So we'll just smite Kana over the pond here and have him pick up our first Aether pot. We'll move Dimitri forward and have Lilith get over here to keep our panic online and also potentially rescue him next turn. And then we'll move Ash up to break this tactic room and open up a way for Peony to snag our second Aether pot. And wait. And nothing really happens here. And from here we should be able to close things out. We'll have Lilith reposition Dimitri forward and not find the real trap.
Comply.
But that's okay. he can knock out Note and tank Catria for the following turn, which also disables that pre-charged Limbo, and reduces her threat range thanks to not having Pathfinder anymore. And then we'll just break this Aether pot, move Ash up, move Mill up,
my blessing.
and close out the match.
We will not lose.
This match should be a fun way to close out the week. It's a cav line with some really impressively invested cavalry units, starting with this absolutely maxed out Leif. It's neat to see him with a Mystic Boost seal, since it does help him actually keep his weapon online over multiple combats as long as he isn't getting counterattacked more than once in a round. And together with the Pulse Smoke and the fact that he's the 7th unit and doesn't have debuffs at the start of a turn, can make him very annoying to deal with for a lot of units. And backing him up with this very impressive Forma Python with an impact effect and double poison strike and fatal smoke, and this maxed out Reinhardt with a similar build, except going a little harder for speed and wind sweep with fatal smoke, makes for a really great 1-2-3 punch of cavalry ranged units. This Python in particular is really good at shutting down hardy fighter armors, since the impact effect is a good way to help keep them alive against them, and being able to turn off their pre-charged special and do 20 damage and apply fatal smoke on top of that makes them a lot easier for someone like Reinhardt or Leif to crack through. And of course having 2 dancers makes it a lot harder to shut this down at all just by using Milla, while the Medius does a lot of work for preventing hit and run approaches, and the Note in the corner with her bonus tripler is a pretty credible threat as well. I think we should have a pretty reasonable time of this though, and Dimitri's just going to continue showing off with his Lilith support for the week, and we're actually going to get this going right away. Even though it does technically give Eldkin an odd Tempest to work with, he shouldn't attack Dimitri instead of dancing Leif,
Like this.
and by engaging on this turn it means that he'll be a lot easier to navigate around on the following turn. We also get to test both of the traps here and find the real heavy trap, before we open things up a little bit more, and dance Liliths for some extra buffs for Dimitri, and then just move Kana out of the way, and Ash out of the way of Leif, since he's not going to have a gravity effect applied to him after this turn begins. Leif gets danced, and goes after Dimitri. But even with the Mystic Boost, we're not too worried about him, since he can't really break through Dimitri at all. And, well, the panicked Note is just not a problem for us.
We will not lose.
I'm surprised she actually attacked before Python. I expected him to actually go first. Having Leif survive is a bit unfortunate, but it shouldn't really slow us down too much here. We'll just have Dimitri move in and knock out this Python, which opens up another safe spot on the map for us. And now that, well, now that we don't have to worry about Leif avoiding our debuffs, it should be a lot easier for Dimitri to finish him off. And we'll just get Milla moving up this way and give him a few more combat buffs to work with, and some extra attack and defense and res. We'll move Ash down out of the way, and say go. He's actually out of range of Reinhardt here, so we don't have to worry about that, and yep. Medius going first is a good thing, since it means Leif isn't surviving. And, well, as usual for the week, Null Follow-Up means we're not having problems with that. Yep. Here comes Leif, but yeah, with his buffs being panicked and the sabotage is active, he's having a much worse time of this combat. And then the dancers should follow in next. Yep. Oof, Seekerd. That triangle adept is not doing him favors.
On my honor.
And then we just wrap things up with Eldigan, who can't quite survive this, even with the Courtly Candle damage reduction online. And then the only thing we have left to worry about is Reinhardt.
Truly?
And from there, it's just a matter of boxing Reinhardt in
Yes.
before we go and pick up the Aether pots and close things out.
I bestow my
It really shouldn't be
blessing.
too hard,
Ready.
since he's already up against a wall.
Lord Asker, guide us.
It'll just take us a couple of turns to get there, and, well, once we do, we can let Dimitri close things out.
Truly?
We'll just move Ash up this way
Good
and
morning.
dance her. Let Connor reposition her up towards this pot.
I do not object.
Like
Have Noah
this.
pick up the second one,
Your orders.
and then close out the week.
On my honor.
That was a nice one to close things out with. This was a really fun week overall. It's good to see Dimitri doing this well, and, well, now that he has access to null follow-up support, he'll be even more of a menace than he used to be. Which is saying quite a bit, since he's always been a really reliable part of my offense teams, at least during water weeks. I do have a Discord channel if you'd like to hang out and chat, and there's a link in the description, and there's also a Patreon page there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.